advice can you give to bands before they come into a studio recording, whether it be in terms of preparation, writing, whatever? What can bands do to make their engineer less angry and also give them a better product before they even come in?
So many things, so I'll try to keep it as short as I possibly can. I think a really big one is
don't suck.
Don't suck.
No, seriously.
Have demos and or pre-pro, and depending on what the band wants to work on with me, like I'll help bands do pre-pro and stuff like that too if they want to. But like I said, it kind of comes down to like if the band's willing to book enough time to like work on pre-pro. I just recently worked with a band that we did an album, and I think they set aside the first entire week, maybe 2 weeks. We just literally laid down all the pre-pro and worked on like some production stuff and arrangements. But if we're not gonna do pre-pro, like if you're in a band, you want to come record with me, like make sure I'm not going into it blind, I guess. I'd love to hear like demos, whatever, pre-pro, even at very least, even if it's just a YouTube video of the band playing through the songs. So I have something to work with and kind of make pointers and stuff like that. That's a really, really big thing. Another one is this is, some producers do it differently, but I like to find the most capable like guitarist and or musician or whoever in the band, and in terms of like guitars, like have that person track all the guitars, unless it's like lead guitars or something, because all your rhythm guitars are going to be layered like left, right, and it's going to sound much better if one person is doing all of that rather than having one guitarist on one side, one on the other, because then it will sound kind of, for like live, that's totally standard, but
you want to have the same hands
in a recording studio. Yeah, it's going to sound a little bit off balance. And then again, for certain bands, I'll have different. If it's like a really like raw project, or if it's like a, that's I'm speaking by default with a lot of like the heavier bands I work with. But if it's like a really like gritty band or like a very raw band, then I might have two different musicians on either side. What else? Obviously, be well practiced. Be rehearsed with metronome, especially for drummers. If your drummer can't cut it or isn't cutting it, I'll have a lot of bands that will bring in session drummers, or I'll hire a session drummer. I guess vocalists, obviously, like have your lyrics written and sent to me, by the time the process begins. And instruments being set up is a big one for sure. Like have all your instruments professionally set up. I have a go-to tech that I send a lot of my bands to. Have like an arsenal of guitar and bass strings, especially bass strings. What else? Oh, and I'll always be prepared to book more time, because a lot of the bands I work with end up needing to book more time, and that's standard.
A lot of things change.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But assuming the band is prepared on all those fronts, we can usually get everything done by the last day. So, which I've been doing a lot lately, actually, because I've been more forward with bands with what they need to do to be prepared, or if it's a band that I've worked with before, next time around, working with them the second time, I'll tell them, all right, this is what we need to do differently now that we've figured out our process, or this person in your band isn't cutting it, like you're going to have someone else track their parts, or, just stuff like that. I'm definitely much more forward and blunt with bands about things like that. And, I don't like having to be the bad guy if someone isn't, doing their part. But, I'm not like an asshole about it. Like, I'll just be like, sorry, man, like it's not cutting it. You're just not prepared. Someone else is going to do it. Unless it's the vocalist, because obviously you can't have like a session vocalist come in and do the parts or something like that. But so if the vocalist is bad, just got to roll with it, work with it, and we'll see what happens.
Just a lot of Melodyne.
A lot of auto-tune and all that, and lots of time alignment, and good times. But luckily, I've had a really fortunate year. The entire year of 2016, I probably worked with my most talented segment of clientele I have, period, which has been like a huge blessing, honestly. Like I don't think I've really dealt with I don't think at any time this year did I ever have to tell a drummer that we had to replace the track with the session drummer or anything. I think I might have told a couple of guitarists that the other guitarist in the band was going to track everything, but that's usually not like a huge deal. It just happens, because at the end of the day, if there's someone in the room that can record something like more efficiently, like quicker, and make it sound better, then like why the hell not have them do it? It's just logistics. So